thank you all for coming, and thank you some of you for coming back. That's very surprising after you experienced previously that you wanted to come back, but we appreciate it. And if you think that what happened in the previous talk was unrehearsed dumpster fire, well, it was
you will have this with plenty of other
it was nothing compared to what's going to happen now.
Yes, exactly. So where you are here, this is where you are right now. So it is RoboCoders Judgment Day, AI IDE. Probably it needs to call like agentic coding.
Agentic coding, yep.
Agentic AI-driven IDEs. We're going to be showing few, at least 3. We're going to be showing today. And as always, this is Baruch Sudagursky.
This is Victor Gamov.
Here, Baruch from the TaxCare.
And Victor from Confluent.
And we're going to be talking about some interesting things. So first of all, before, like we were getting some feedback saying that people don't expect what they should be, people didn't know what they expect.
Yes. So
I'll show you something that we ideally at the end will have 3 different versions.
Yeah. So the whole idea of this talk, let's start with the premise. The premise is we open an IDE and we let it run. We an IDE, an agent, and we let it run. Right? We will show you tips, tricks, prompts, tools that will make it happen. But eventually, both of us will start from an empty IDE without any code, and we hope to end up with 3 different versions of working application written by 3 different AI agents. So basically, it's vibe coding, but with helpful commentary along the way.
We like to call it AI assistant engineering because vibe coding, it's a more respectful, you know, with Java champions, we have like some age and mileage. And
we'll see. Yeah. It might end up vibe coding. It might end up AI system engineering.
Anyone
we don't know.
Tried and enjoyed vibe coding these days? All right, few people. I'm curious why. Yes, exactly. Why people not enjoying the vibe coding? We will definitely bring more energy, as Alex asked, because I really love the things what this like agentic coding brings, and but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what kind of tool you will be using. Advices and different tips that we're going to be providing today can be translated to any IDE. Some of the features that baked in IDE can be emulated through approaches that Baruch will talk about, I will talk about, and the way how to organize code and how to talk to different models. So level set. We're gonna be.
You wanted to show the end result.
Yes.
So we tried to come up with an application that will be simple enough to generate in an hour and 15 minutes, but also will be interesting enough to like something beyond just hello world.
Yes.
So what we see here is a control interface for a smart bulb. Right, so you see the bulb, physical, like...
So there's a physical bulb. It's placed here so it can also fit in the camera, but essentially what you can see here, it changes the color based on, ideally it should change the color based on the pattern recognized or like a dominant color from the picture. I'm using this just emulation, but if someone has, this gentleman with red t-shirt can stop by, we can try to see if the camera can scan his, at the end, we're gonna do some, the work with public. And see, sometimes it works in a way that it couldn't figure out like a dominant color because algorithm, I don't know this algorithm, I just asked AI to implement this algorithm. Couple of things here, like I don't know for front end very well, but front end integration with webcam is essential here. I ask only about the backend and integration with Bulb. It has a great API. It has a REST API. So we need to read this screen, get the RGB colors, and send the REST call to the. Is it like fair enough? Like it's simple enough?
But also like has physical representation in our physical world. Which
so
is
essentially, what I will do in order to show that we're not, tricking anyone. Okay. So that's why the backend is not properly working because the application was killed. So what I'm gonna do is
delete everything.
Delete everything.
Okay. While you do that, why wouldn't we switch and talk a little bit about?
This is fine. This is.
what the difference between vibe coding and AI assisted engineering.
Yeah.
So let me switch to this. Okay, what I want to show you is, first of all, the instructions and the prompts are in a GitHub repo that will be shared with you in the show notes. We'll get to it in the end of the presentation. And so a lot of people are frustrating about vibe coding because all the downsides of LLMs, right? The hallucinations, the drive to please, you're absolutely right. And the tests that instead of validating behavior, validating existing code and always pass and all this kind of stuff. And we all know that because we tried and we were burned with it, and we maybe don't want to try it again. But I personally believe that there is a better way. And a better way that I'm talking about is called intent integrity chain. The problem with our interaction with AI, especially when it comes to code, is in the trust. We don't trust, for a very good reason, that AI will implement what we asked it to implement. Correct? That's kind of the root cause of the problem. Because it doesn't. It doesn't. And the question is, can we somehow make sure that whatever we asked will be implemented in code through some kind of combination of techniques, old and new, and some kind of guardrails that we can put on our model to guarantee that the code will be done. So the intent integrity chain, this is a very that's the slides that you get for this presentation, sorry about that. It is a flow of steps that guarantee to some extent that what you asked in the prompt will be implemented in code. And it goes like this. We express what we want to build in prompt and then ask LLM to express this prompt in a spec, which is structured in like in behavior-driven development with the given when then clauses and basically something that machine readable, machine understandable, but also human readable. Once the specs are generated, we as humans can validate that what is written in a spec is still what we wanted in the prompt. So we can prevent hallucinations by reading the spec and understand it. Next step, we can ask tools which are not LLM and not and yes deterministic and algorithmic and not stochastic to convert those specs into tests. Once we have those tests, we can look at them and still be sure that what's in the test is what was done in the what was asked in the prompt and then in the spec, and eventually we can let LLM run until those tests are passing, making sure that the tests are not tampered with. So LLM can't adjust tests to code, but have to adjust code to tests. So this is the idea of intent integrity chain. In the show notes, you will be able to watch an entire talk about that, like 45 minutes with normal slides. But for now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that our agent adheres to those principles, to intent integrity chain, and does what needs to be done. What will help us with that is our favorite MCP, which is Context 7, that provides documentation up to date, not hallucinatory, correct up-to-date documentation for technical libraries. So first rule is Context 7 documentation authority. All third-party libraries documentation must come from Context 7 MCP, right? And then I explain how to reach Context 7 MCP and what to do it. And then stop conditions. If Context 7 is unreachable, don't do anything because we know they will hallucinate APIs that do not exist. only look here. Library unfound, documentation unavailable, etc. Right? And then we are talking about phases, right? So phase 1, analysis. Stuff like identify all the dependencies in our requirements. And then phase 2, specification. This is how to do it, etc., etc. And here is the intent integrity chain in action. Phase 0, repository initialization, that's fine. Phase 1, analysis and architecture. Understand the problem space, define boundaries, document technical decisions. This is understanding the prompt. And then what to do? Context 7, write documentations, define architectural patterns. And then we go to phase 2, specification. Transform intent into machine variable behavior specifications. And then this is how the specs look like. And then text generation. We can use tools to generate tests from spec. And then eventually phase 4, implementation, write minimal code to make tests pass. And what's most important here is the protected files. Now, what we can do here is actually make those files read-only. After we will stop in phase 3, we can go to the file system and make those folders read-only. So our LLM won't be able to change them and mess with the tests in order to adhere them to our own code. And this is how can we protect the tests from being modified. And all those instructions are actually the agent instructions. For this example is the Copilot instructions. It will be junior requirements. It will be cursor rules, etc., etc. So this is how our agent behaves.
Can I use a moment of the audience attention? I will be following slightly different approach. Baruch approach with the intent integrity chain is well structured, and I would like to show you something different. We call it PDD, like prompt-driven development, and essentially it will drive development out of basically three basic prompts, and after that things will just run with. But a very important part of our conversation would be how we define. We're not going to start everything with the prompt. The amount of information that we need to provide in order to set up the context, and modern technologies and modern models, it's enough for us just ship full-blown requirements document, PRD, product requirement document. And for this particular demo, again, I didn't write this myself. I just riff it with some LLM applications like Grok. Grok does great research capabilities. It's not super slow how other systems does research. It's up to date with some of the modern technology. So I went to Grok and saying, hey, I'm thinking about this application. I'm thinking about certain features. Can you research? What's the current version of Java? What's the version of the framework? And at the end of this conversation, give me a document requirement in PRD format, meaning that there would be some functional requirements, non-functional requirements. And after that, I'll show you how I can turn this PRD into something that would be actionable for LLM. Because at the end of the day, what we want to have a little bit predictability, even though we call it like vibing, because people call it vibing because they want to agree with everything. We're not like that. We want to have a little bit control. We want to have assistance on the certain things. Say, same way how you communicate those things with the junior developers and the developers who will be implementing certain features. Okay?
Yep. So the first thing we do is we initialize new repository. And here. We initialize new repository. Now, the way we initialize new repository is with a prompt. And the prompt that I provided here starts with the hashtag new. And those hashtags are instructions for Copilot agents. There are two types of kind of commands that start with a hashtag and that do something, and command that starts with ampersand, not ampersand, sorry, like the at, and that will be talk to something. For example, I can use stuff like hashtag context, and workspace, and that would be, this will be create something in the workspace, or I can do at workspace, and that would be ask workspace something. For example, if I get into a new code base and I want to understand what it does, I can do stuff like at workspace, tell me about what this project does. And that will mean that the entire workspace needs to be analyzed in order to give me some kind of a reply. Okay, so what happens here? What needs to happen after I asked to initialize new workspace is to create a new workspace for our technical stack. A Java Spring Boot, a P-React, it's a minimalistic front-end framework, and then stuff like latest Java, what is the latest Spring Boot, front end, etc., etc. Again, I can use context 7 to not only write code, but also initialize the code space and the workspace. And Visual Studio actually knows to use context 7 to scaffold project for new project creation. So I can use this fully blown, up-to-date documentation for workspace creation, not only for writing code. And what I expect to see here is, in the end of the day, POM.xml, POM.xml that initializes the that builds the project, and then two directories, backend and frontend. I have no idea why I have code here. I shouldn't have, because I asked for scaffolding only, but we'll clean it up in a sec once it's finished. So note how I can use not just vibe coding to initialize a workspace, but I actually can use documentation to initialize the context using context 7.
My approach would be slightly different. So I would like
That's the idea.
I would like to go not from the code perspective. I will come from assumption that I know better what I want. So that's how any product manager comes with this assumption. You know, have you ever have this type of product manager in your work? I don't know. Like, hey, I have this great idea, and here's things what I want to implement. And with this PRD is basically like I already described everything. But that's my the philosophy, version of dependencies, the way how I like to this project structure would look like, some of the framework bits. Now, based on this information, what I wanted to do is have a set of actionable steps. So that's why in PDD, I have this very brilliant, very brilliant prompt that would say, okay, so go ahead and read this file. Go ahead, understand this, extract key goals, and build the implementation plan. The plan that you can, you know, in the real life, you can assign some estimates in terms of times, estimates in terms of budget, and all these kind of things. So I will go ahead and say this. And in this case, the Windsurf, in this particular case, will be interacting with the Claude Sonnet 4.5 that was released 2 days ago. Is already making some waves around. So it reads the documentation, try to see if this there's already existing code, because sometimes product managers can code, they can come up with, hey, I have this you know, prototype that I just like coded over a weekend. The worst nightmare of the engineers, like when the chief product officer, like on Friday, start asking questions in AI productivity chats, and hey, how I can get this the wipe coding things? I have some ideas. Now, and in this case, it start compiling a plan of executing this. And as a next step, I will pass the microphone to Baruch to talk about this. I will use another prompt to take this plan, assuming plan is totally fine. I can go and refine this plan if I didn't like whatever it wrote. And after that, I will turn this plan into actionable task. There's something that product manager will take the plan, and after that start assigning JIRAs and all this kind of stuff. And based on the tasks, we will be able to start implementation. Why it is important? How many of you heard about the context window when we're talking to LLMs? So it is essentially the LLM is stateless. Every time when we talk into LLM, we're talking through API, and this API has set of parameters that we can pass. And the context window basically defines how many parameters we can pass there. Now, this tool, VNsurf in this case, has these great capabilities to maintain some of the state of the project, but there could be situations when you will not be able to submit anymore. So in this case, your context window would be too big. And having the control with the old good style of having this written somewhere in files will definitely help for you to maintain, or you decide to switch to a different tool. You get tired of Windsurf, you decide to go with Cursor, or you decide to go to Kiro, or you decide to go with the Claude Code or something else. You will be able to switch using this approach. It will take some time to implement this plan because the Wi-Fi here is not the super fast, but it will spin up the plan, and after that I will spin up the task, and I'll show you how those tasks would look like. And also, when you kind of like a vibing with this, you also need to have control where we're standing, and this is opportunity for you to have some sort of the point in time, you know where you're standing because certain tasks would be executed as done. And again, you can always ask this tool to go and say, analyze my code and see if the tasks are fulfilled. You can manually add tasks afterwards. So it will take a few moments of this. Again, this information, the prompts, I will share with the same repository. Each there will be folders.
For each tool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so in this particular case, there would be something like Windsurf PDD, and you will find the Windsurf rules. Is this something that you can, explicitly tell what you want this tool to do or not to do? In this particular case, I saying that this is going to be demo. Don't go crazy. I know you can, but please don't. Please don't create containers, no databases, no Redis, for God forbid, no website connection. And you might be asking, like, Victor, why are you so specific? Because this fucker did this. And I know that it will continue to do this again. So I said, okay, never add. Please don't do this. It is demo. We want to keep it simple, nice, and stuff. So, and this file also will be shared, so you can play around, apply. After this plan is done, so I can go ahead and say, assuming I'm happy with this result, so I'm gonna go and say, now we do have a plan, create detailed improvement task for blah blah blah, and what we can do here, it will create the tasks. The task is saved in the checklist. Okay, create detailed based, say. Based on, I can say plan. So I can attach, it's a feature of Windsurf, I can attach certain files to the context. So when it will be performing this task, it will include this plan document as well. So it will not just, go in and go crazy.
Stupid question.
No stupid questions.
No stupid questions. Well, you know what? Let's make it more interesting. I have 4 t-shirts to give for non-stupid questions, and none of them are stupid, okay?
We are time constrained, but in the real world, you read the plan, right? You look at that document.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Trust
absolutely.
me, I've done this before.
Absolutely.
Famous last words, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. You definitely look at the plan. And this is what I described as well in the steps that you always verify, because obviously in some point of time it will hallucinate like crazy, and we definitely don't want that, right?
Correct. So absolutely, you read this plan if you like what it. Sometimes it doesn't. That's why I was like very certain that it's going to be fine, because I do have these rules on the Windsurf that it will exclude these things, because sometimes it's like let's talk about the code qualities and implement allocate 2 weeks of the code quality tools implementation and tests. Like no one got time for this.
Yes, and like let's implement CDN.
Yeah.
Okay, switch.
Yes.
Okay, so Good. All right. So we created our scaffolding, and using the scaffolding prompt that basically went and said, like, this is the stack. Make sure that you use context 7 for scaffolding, and that's all. So now you already saw the instructions. You saw the scaffolding prompt. Let's look at the prompt itself. So the prompt itself is basically the definition of what we want to achieve. Now, this is the product definition that Victor showed you. You can have it obviously as a separate document, but you can also start with a prompt. You can say, you know what, you try and come up with the right spec. And remember, we're going to review the spec and check that the requirements are correct. And we provide here some examples: capture a background video in browser, extract dominant color, and then use case. What it needs to do, it reminds it consistently that it needs to follow the intent integrity check methodology, and it requires consistency that it should follow context 7 requirement, mandatory before any work, resolve and retrieve documentation, right? And then what we're going to use, what kind of libraries, what kind of APIs, and since the requirements are very simple, we just wanted to change color, there is not much to say, and we can actually say it all in one prompt, right? We provide examples for endpoint, post API control, how to change it, and then configuration, we're going to place the IP in the configuration file, error handling, etc., etc. Now, exactly as with Victor, we already know some gotchas that it will try to do, and we put it in constraints: no databases, no WebSockets, no authentication, no Docker, no complex state management. Don't go there. And one more point, we know from what we wrote that if it's going to come up with a dummy IP when it generates the code and then run the test will fail. Now, we know that LLMs are not perfect, and it will probably spin the hell out of itself to death trying to make it work without realizing that the IP that it invented is incorrect. So we can protect it against that, and we say, expect test failures. The bulb will fail because of without a correct bulb IP. So you don't need to try and fix this problem because obviously you won't be able to, so just wait for us to provide the correct IP in the documentation. All right, so now we can take it and we go and we speak about the behavior, how it's going to work, what success criteria looks like, what we want to see in the end, what are non-functional requirements, don't have any, and what clear code quality. So the real actual code quality that we care about is that it actually uses
if
context
it compiles, ship it.
that it uses context 7 and use the right thing. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and run this prompt.
And I will show you how those tasks would look like. So I implemented this prompt based on the plan. Now I have like dedicated phases. And we were doing this for a while, for last couple months. It's a lot in the modern AI years.
Veterans.
I'm telling you that the models, the leaps, how they're improving the things, it's 90 days. Like, we were fascinated to see how like Sonnet 3.7 was performed until we saw Sonnet 4 and Opus 4, and after that, and now we enjoy Sonnet 4.5. So now it understands and actually like it builds these phases. You see, this task breakdown was created not by me, but based on understanding contents and based understanding of like software development life cycles and things like that. So in this particular case, I don't need to go and do like one big bang and saying like one big prompt. I will go slower and say, I do have this prompt that is, oh, wrong one. Sorry. Now I can say that. Here we go. Proceed with implementing this application according to the task listed in the document. Start with phase 1 through 4. I want to see backend will be implemented from 1.4. And also I can say that, you can proceed this if you want, but in this particular case, I want to say, please don't start new phase until I explicitly ask you. So,
and that's exactly like taken from the intent integrity check the chain like rulebook, right?
Yeah.
You want to stop between the phases because you need to verify manually with your own eyes that what it did actually makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So what is going on here? And you said control and yes. So what is going on here is that I pasted the prompt that you will have in GitHub, and the first thing it does, it actually starts analyzing context, the libraries from context 7, and you can see here what it asks the questions for. Spring Boot. Get the documentation about Spring Boot. And then Shelly API, and it will get documentation from Shelly API, etc., etc. Like P-React, that's our framework.
You want to spend a little bit of time talking about Context 7, how we love it, and how it is extensible, and how we just cannot stop talking about this, because like you can think about it, like Shelly docs, like who put it there? Spring Boot, okay, it's a payment framework. Probably Josh Long went and put it there somehow, but. Like,
so,
what the hell is Shelly?
So our beloved MC, like the best MCP in the world, Context 7. They have dark mode, I think. Maybe not. Maybe not. I thought I saw it, but maybe not. Okay, sorry about that. Too bright. Basically what you see here is a list of all the libraries that Context 7 parsed the documentation and prepared to serve in LLM-friendly way. You can see how many tokens the documentation takes. So this is how many tokens will be consumed by your LLM to parse this documentation. And popular, trending, and recent are interesting parts. Now, what's interesting in that is that each and every one of us can go and add a library to be parsed. We can search a library and then we can add our own. Here's an add button. And it started with GitHub, where you pasted a GitHub URL here, and it parsed the doc and the source code. But then, and this is, for example, where we started to look at Context 7. So it had all the open source projects that had GitHub, for example, Spring Boot, or for example, even OpenJDK, because it's now on GitHub. But if you didn't have a GitHub project, we were in a pickle. And that's exactly what in the beginning happened with Shelly API. Because the Shelly thing is pretty obscure.
Yes,
right?
It's some bulb that I use Grok to research. I wanted to have programmable device that doesn't require hub, doesn't require anything, works over Wi-Fi, great for conferences, small for travel, and has great REST API. It was great on paper. It's still great on
it's great on paper.
Yeah.
So this is how the documentation looks like. It's not on GitHub. There are no sources. It's a hardware company based out of. They have different offices in. I think part of it is Eastern Europe, and other maybe in China. I don't remember. But it's not something that I can go ahead and paste in Context 7 and say, hey, load all this documentation, until Context 7 added the ability to parse documentation from any website. And this was a game changer. That was absolutely delightful. I pasted here the exact, pasted here like just the URL. And now look at that. Shelly API right here. No, that was my previous attempt to use LLM text. That didn't work. But let me see. Shelly API.
Meanwhile, something already,
oh my God.
start bulbing bulbs.
Where is like proper Shelly API? Shelly API. It should be somewhere here. Here we go. Yeah. So this, like, it was added 1 month ago, by someone that you know, but now it has everything. It has all the code snippets and all the documentation right here, and I can put my agent to work and be sure that it will use the right APIs, which is pretty cool. This is why we love Context 7 so much. Now let's talk about how do we actually turn it on. How do we add MCP server? So there are many ways to do it. You can do it from the page of the MCP server. If they are popular enough, they will probably give you an option to add the MCP server from their right from their website. And you can see here that somewhere in the README there will be buttons to actually add them to the most popular here. Install in VS Code. I use VS Code, so here is a button, install in VS Code or VS Code Insider. I can do it from the documentation. Other option, I can do it from within my IDE. So here, this control zoom, yes. So this little button here that shows tools is actually about tools. Now it won't show. Yes, and here you can see the list of tools which include built-in tools, and this is for built-in, and extensions and MCP servers. So what I can do is I can add tools right from here, and I can search for Context 7 and add it, and it will be added here. Now, you can see here that it was added twice, it looks like. One of them is disabled, but there are two entries. And that's because there is another very neat way to edit through Docker Desktop. Now, one of the latest features of Docker Desktop is, where is my Docker Desktop? Here, is the what it's called MCP Toolkit. MCP Toolkit is a platform to which you can add MCP servers that you like from the catalog, and you can see here that obviously I added Context 7, but also GitHub and Playwright, and then it will expose a single MCP server that I will add to my tool, and it will contain all the tools combined. So here I can go to clients and select which client do I want to add. Again, I can add it from here. So here I can set up in Visual Studio Code, or I can do the other way around. I can add it from here. So here, one of the Context 7 were added directly using this button on the website or from there, and the other comes from Docker. In the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just two ways to get those two very powerful tools that I wanted to show you. Victor.
Yes, Baruch.
What's going
on? While we're talking about the things, I took a liberty advance my coding things.
Yep.
So one of the things that you could notice from a result from my previous call, it gives me summary. In this particular case, it looks something like this. Phase 1.7 implemented. This is something kind of like your good fellow software engineer will provide you with when you're asking for status update. Then, hey, this implementation complete. I created this stuff with like all fresh Spring Boot in Java 26, I created properties, blah, 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 created the business logic that will be talking to the service. It has the API to update color and things like that. So, and I was just like, oh, okay, so it's compiled, ship it. Now, I said, okay, continue now. I trust you. Start with phase 5. That is, you remember, it was our front end. And now it also has capabilities to perform planning and choose their own issues to pick up, because it now can read this task and understand that, saying, hey, I think having a nice blue button would be great here instead of having not so nice. So, and he started working on the front end, started implementing JavaScript, continue it. Those tools now know how to execute the our favorite tools. They run this in the background. You can, don't do anything. So one of the things that people usually also get frustrated if this, like, they need to see this and yes, I agree. I made the decision to agree with everything. And where is it? Winsoft setting. In the settings, there's the mode called the
YOLO.
Yeah, basically YOLO. I just don't care. Just, burn from my $10 a month. Turbo mode. Don't ask me anything. Do your thing.
Just keep going.
If I will see you doing something stupid, I will tell you. Otherwise, I don't care. And that's why it calls Maven, runs this, it creates makefile, because somewhere in the memory, it knows that I love makefiles to simplify some of the things.
Oh my God.
There's a local Windsurf rules and the global. I configure global because all my projects should include makefiles. All my project will include, I'm a millennial, so obviously there should be emojis there.
Of course.
Colors in the terminal. As you can see, when you will be running this, you'll have the nice, beautiful colors. And obviously documentation. So now it's doing something. And also, I shipped a small script saying, hey, this is how you would discover this light bulb using command line tools. And now you see it does, makefiles with the emojis and stuff. So, and after that, it will continue to look into my tasks file and will updating this task. Another cool feature, I don't know if you noticed this, but I don't have to agree with everything. So it gives me div. So in this particular case, it gives me a red. It's meaning that it's something to remove and something to add. And I always can track what was changed even without explicitly specifying version control. It's a very neat feature. Sometimes people complain, oh, it just went and removed all my files. You still will be able to do this. You can accept files or you can reject. Or you can go ahead here, say accept all, and we YOLO. Now, so I'm waiting until this thing will finish so we can...
Okay, give it to me in a minute.
Yes, we can build and run and see if it actually works.
Okay, so when we stopped, you didn't...
I did. Oh,
yeah.
my bad.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so last we looked at our agent. It was discovering all the documentation from Context 7. Now, once it's done, it goes like, perfect, content documentation has been successfully retrieved. Now it starts reading our scaffolding that we prepared, and excellent, it has the complete context, and this is where we get to the first stop gate according to intent integrity chain. It parsed the libraries, it retrieved everything that it had to do. It was surprised to encounter that didn't find HTM but found HTMX. It thinks that it's the same thing, but it also marked it as something to review, which is very nice of it, and provides us with the summary of what it discovered, right? What APIs were discovered, and this is the exact endpoint that Shelly works with, and then control parameters for the light bulb, which is obviously important, full GET request that it will issue, and technical architecture, etc., etc. So this all stuff is for us to review. It doesn't run and keep going, and you're like, oh, where's the stop button because it's doing something absolutely ridiculous? No, it will stop for us to review all that and then introduce constraints, something that didn't, that was fishy for it, and we can see if this is something that we want to do. Stop gate, user approval required. We look at that, and only then we can say, okay, this is good. I'm saying like, hey, I'm happy, go for it. And then it will go to phase 2 specification, and then it starts to create those documents that will be human readable for us to review and decide whether it goes into the right direction or not.
While we on this subject, I want to talk about another agent. So we right now showed you two agents that working on top of Visual Studio Code. Baruch uses Copilot. I use Windsurf. They use the same model. Anyone using IntelliJ products, like JetBrains products? JetBrains released a couple months ago this tool called Junie. It's another coding agent, and it's actually pretty cool. So it does things slightly different. How in the very beginning it started with like basically anything there. You cannot configure anything. You just like have a window where you can tap something, and after that it will go do it magic. Now it's evolved, and now it's quite a good a tool for implementing some of the cool stuff. And this at this moment of time, it has a very good knowledge of Java and languages that support it officially, like a Go, supported in a Golang, and some other languages that support in other IDEs of JetBrains. Sometimes you can notice that it actually does things slower than other agents, but by the end of the day, it has like internal loop that maybe it's not exposing directly to UI when it needs to validate responses from the model, from LLM and stuff like that. So I went different route from here, from the PDD and from the IIC. I went from saying, hey, just YOLO, like
just go and
here's
do it.
Requirements. Just go crazy, implement, and don't stop until you implement everything in requirements. I would not be looking, and it also has a planning mode. It has this very nice, and as a matter of fact, like this planning mode was there. One of the first tools who showed this, how this will be implementing this requirements, and now it continues. It knows how to run the code as well. It has integration with the tools that built in JetBrains. So in this case, like build runs here, it will try to fix problem. Also, I tell it, okay, I don't want you to have hard-coded IP. We are in 2025. There's a thing called MDNS. All these devices support MDNS. There's a Java library called JMDNS. Go figure. Go to Context 7. Learn how to use this library and implement auto-discovery of this bulb. I don't want to put any IP addresses here. So we'll see how it goes. It's still working. There's still red things. Jury is still
out there.
They still in process of the things. But what I can see from my windsurf, I tell it, we were running out of time, so just do MVP.
Yep.
And it continues to do the things, and it will give me the status. Was very, very cute and very nice. The file that has my MVP status. Oh, just close this one. I accept everything, and let's see what it's like. It says does checks, runs everything, classes exist. It performs this like a verification. I didn't ask it, but it's good to have. And if I'm trying to run this, and let's see if it does whatever I wanted it to, refresh it. Select camera. So it looks like camera integration is not there. So we are not fully there yet, because it just, I think it has only dummy, but has UI. We'll see.
How do you specify the user interface?
We don't.
care.
We don't.
They
we
have a very nice
we're backend developers.
taste.
We don't.
So they decided how it look like.
Yeah.
Not entirely. So
much.
in requirements, I'm putting something when I'm researching. I'm just saying, hey, I want the interface doesn't suck. So put something nicer. Use like Apple guides or whatever modern websites would look like. The models are much better in building websites because they were trained on the internet data, versus that models on doing stuff on Java, because that's why you need to have things like Context 7 and things like that.
Yes. All right. So let's see what we have here. So please tap the button.
Tap the button.
Tap the button.
Tap the button.
Tap the button. Okay. Thank you for tapping the button.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, what I have here is rogue UI went rogue. AI went rogue. So it claims that it actually did the right thing according to our methodology, and that creating a specification file. And if you remember, the specification file should have user stories that describe what the model understood from our requirements, from our prompt. But instead, it created something very, very strange. So it says like, yes, this will be technical specification, and I am aware of your methodology, but then it just went into a rumble about like the system. So basically what it is, how it works, a lot of technical stuff, which is nice, but that's not what we wanted from the spec phase. What we wanted from the spec phase is these structural specs that we can use to generate later to generate tests. But again, because we have those stop gates and it actually stopped where it should, when it should have, I have the ability to go and say, hey, this is not what you're supposed to do. Go read your what is called the compiled instructions, understand what specs need to be, and then create those Gherkin specs. And that's exactly what I did. So now it actually created bunch of it created a directory called features. Here it is in the resources, and in those features we actually have exactly what we need to have. So we have the feature with the background and the scenarios, and those are actually exactly the specs that we can then use tools to generate tests from. So now when we have the specs, I can say what happened. It removes the test that it. Can I say configure auto approve? Okay, this is so for what is approved and what's not. We have a list, and I can say what you don't need to ask me. In the spirit of YOLO of this talk, I'm going to do something very, very crazy, and don't try that at home. But basically, yes, don't ask me when you do any RM at all, because why not? So it will create the test that it will delete the test that it created ahead of time, jump the gun, as I already explained. And now, after it will delete those tests, I can actually generate the right tests from those specs.
I want to show a very important thing that I think people will appreciate. Now, this is something that I'm getting on the UI, and I'm a little bit frustrated. I have no idea what is happening here because I didn't write this front end. So what I can do is just saying, hey, okay, let me get this screenshot. Same way as the product manager will do and take a screenshot and send this to developer. I can say, hey, dear friend, take a look here. Camera doesn't show up, and color picker detector, color how we call it, color detector doesn't work. So it will look into screenshot, figure out what is the problem, and will try to find the solution. I can see the issue the WinServe telling me. Camera position dialog is showing, but video isn't displaying. So let's take a look. And it will continue improving the application. On the other side...
Yeah, we can do even better than screenshots. But I think all of the Visual Studio-based IDEs have the ability to open an interactive browser inside the tab of the IDE itself, with an object picker that will be automatically passed to the LLM. So we can, if we see something wrong on the page, we can say this element is somehow wrong, and then the context of this element with the screenshot will be automatically passed to LLM, and Victor doesn't have to take the screenshot by
itself. You could look at the screenshot, analyze this, get the data from the camera. I can do from my FaceTime camera, allow. This is where probably not going to work because I have a black T-shirt. But if you have something lighter,
Yeah, I have.
oh yeah, you have the
Yes, I have the
have the
app
app.
that you vibe coded. So random colors, just showing on the screen, perfect for going here and doing this.
Not there yet. Not there yet. Cannot do the thing yet.
No, doesn't work.
Yeah,
Okay,
doesn't
we tried.
work.
We tried.
Continue iterating.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So yeah, I don't have a lot of updates yet. The summarizing conversation history becomes more and more painful as we have more history and we start to get out of the context window. But using intent integrity chain, you can actually have a new conversation open for each step. It will dramatically improve the quality of the conversation because the context window will be empty. And all the context that LLM needs for continue working using the intent integrity chain is already there. It will parse anew the requirements, and it can position itself in the right step by parsing the existing content. It knows that the specs exist, the tests do not exist, so it's in the end of phase 2. The test exists, the code does not, it's in the end of phase 3. And this is how we can have much more responsive and faster generation than the payment of summarizing conversation history that will become longer and longer and more frequent as you reuse the same conversation instead of opening a new one. Okay, we start to get tests from our Gherkin specifications, and you can see here that those tests are actually traced back to the Gherkin spec, which feature, which section in the specification, and what will be the implementation eventually. And you can see here the tests that are failing because Shelly service does not exist. It will create an empty interface without any implementation, so our tests will compile, but it will fail on to-dos because the implementation won't be there. And again, a block of traceability for intent integrity chain where it goes to back on the feature, and another test that again does not compile yet, but will compile soon once the mock, not the mock, but the empty interfaces will be created for us to be able to compile the code. Victor.
Because I'm doing two things at the same time, JetBrains, Juni give me working example.
That's Juni.
But it didn't give me like a picker of the cameras. It just picked up the camera that was default.
The virtual?
One, and pick up the virtual one.
Okay.
It works, kind of sort of like solving the problem. But also it was able to implement a auto discovery, so I don't need to rely on the API, the IP. So now this service is automatically discovered through. It's still here, but it should have a discovery service that will use this library that it didn't know how to use. Went to Context 7, learned how to use it, and just picked up this library to discover this bulb. So I think it's pretty awesome. I'll try to fix this guy, and if it's still doing the thing, it's telling me. So remember, you said that they can open the console of the browser.
Yep.
That's what it says to me. Go work, human. Go do this thing yourself. Like do this thing. Like I have no idea. Let's just go and look at these messages.
Inspect, do console tab, and
you do. No, you do. No, you do it. I use Windsurf browser.
Internal browser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see if it would be figuring out floating thing. Okay. I will use Puppeteer browser. Here's another interesting thing. It has a set of tools, and Puppeteer essentially will run the browser inside. So let's see. It doesn't know, it know how to start the application before the browser will appear. Now it runs this like headless mode, headless-ish, with the Okay, now it runs, allow this time, virtual camera it picked up. It now reads good old style of things, reading from curl, doing the thing. Will it be able to look into the console of the browser? Let's see. It does something. So what the MCP Puppeteer does, it can do commands like navigate and get the response of these commands. When we navigate to this location, it will give me kind of like HTML representation. So this system will continue to learning what is happening here. So for example, there's it gives a DOM access, so I can evaluate some of the DOM the elements, so it would know that it works at how it was intended to, because it has a code, it has a context for the code. Let's see. Oh, never happened before. He's not responding.
What?
All right, keep waiting. Let's see. Maybe it's a garbage collection, or maybe it's something.
It's just Chrome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Switch to me while you battle with that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, we are in the end of phase 4. And again, this is stop gate. Nothing happens. So phase 4 complete, test generation from Gherkin specs. We have a report of what has been done, which test was generated, and then the most exciting part for us, of course, is complete traceability. Every test method includes the Java doc referencing all the way to our original prompt, which is very, very cool, because now we can review the test if we want to and actually validate that these tests are still capturing our original intent. How powerful is that? We are now very far away from the prompt, and we still know that it does the right thing. And now it's ready for the next, which will be implementation. And what I can do now is mark the tests read-only, so we know that they won't be messed about, and say go for phase 5. And hopefully by the end of it, we will have running application that does exactly what we wanted it to do in our original prompt, with the benefit that it is completely covered by tests, which obviously gives us our usual confidence for refactoring, moving forward, adding more stuff, etc., etc.
I wanted to show you that, like, even though if it's crashed, I can continue, because this particular tool handles all these conversations, handles context, and after that I can continue, and it will continue doing things. Let's see. Application now is ready for your demo. Okay, let's see. That's the moment of truth. It's different port. 8.0. Let's see if it is actually. Hey, okay. It's not a big deal. I can run this myself. It's fine. Recompile this. All right, virtual cam. Still, picker doesn't work. So it's not ready. No, the color detector still doesn't work. Go to console and
check what's wrong.
Check what's wrong.
So, how many of you read the amazing book called Head First Java? Couple of hands. If you remember, the first chapter was about benefits of object-oriented programming comparing to procedural programming. Yeah, right. And the premise was that there was a competition in a company about who will introduce more features faster. And there were two developers. The one did procedural programming and the other object-oriented. And in the beginning, the person who did procedural programming was way ahead, because they started to ship features immediately. But as the time progressed, they slowed down, because it was harder and harder to refactor, and then the person who did object-oriented programming got ahead. The prize was Arion chair. What was the name? Not Arion.
I don't remember.
Iron chair, like the ergonomic
Aaron.
ergonomic chair. And obviously the question in the end of the chapter was, who do you think won the chair? And the answer was the boss's secretary, obviously. But jokes aside, we are now at exactly this point. As you noticed, Victor was much faster than me to get to something that he could show.
Yeah.
But now we see how the struggle catches on.
Like last mile, last 20% of this.
Because stuff is breaking, it's not exactly the way it wants, it's not exactly tested, or the model claims that it works, but it actually doesn't. Does it have any tests? No, it does not. And this is where hopefully the intent integrity chain model will catch up and maybe even pass and get to a working application faster. Yes, go for it.
Question about the chain.
Yes.
Can I use it for the existing legacy project?
Oh, this is a wonderful question. That's definitely a t-shirt. So there are a couple of questions about how do we apply to existing code base, right? Because generally it has deep roots in TDD, and TDD, test-driven development, is notoriously how to implement for existing project because the code is already there. So what needs to be done is the existing code needs to be analyzed and covered by tests to the best understanding of the model. Now, we go exactly the opposite in the beginning. We log the code, make it read-only, and ask the model to cover anything with tests to the level that we can check with code coverage that all the test is covered. Now we can go ahead and extrapolate specs out of those tests. Not only it will already put us in the same level as the new greenfield project that got to the spec phase, but it will also provide us with an amazing benefit of better understanding of existing code. Because